And when I got in there, all I knew was make sure I come out victorious. But people don't respect the mental part about that. Like, people don't respect it. All they want to say is, oh, you were scared or you ran.
So it is not necessary. It is unnecessary to go in through that process and blame the money, because it has nothing to do.
Guys like him, man, I just try to ignore them, because at the end of the day, I could really get on his ass with his business and talk about what he doing that's dumb as a motherfucker. It's a bunch of dumb shit.
Stevenson stripped of his 135 lightweight WBC crown, his Tyson belt. They stripped him. He just stuck a toe in one.
After the biggest victory of his career, Shakur Stevenson shocked the boxing world by blasting the WBC as crooks and refusing to hand over $100,000 in sanctioning fees. Terence Crawford quickly backed him, taking aim at the organization and suggesting they're still bitter over past disputes. But here's the real question no one is asking: could Shakur actually sue the WBC? And when the answer may lie in a historic federal lawsuit, little-known laws designed to protect fighters and legal precedents proving sanctioning bodies aren't above accountability. Just days earlier, everything seemed flawless. On January 31st, 2026, at Madison Square Garden, Stevenson delivered a masterclass performance against Teofimo Lopez. There was no controversy and no debate. Shakur Stevenson dictated the tempo, neutralized Lopez's offense, and made sure the judges had no doubt about the outcome. By the final bell, he had secured the Ring Magazine title and the WBO Junior Welterweight Championship, officially becoming a four-division world champion in achievement reserved for elite generational talents. Then came the shock. Just days later, the WBC announced they were stripping Stevenson of his lightweight title, suddenly shifting the spotlight from celebration to
I thoroughly don't give a shit. Listen, I thoroughly don't give a shit. And to go further, I don't think Shakur Stevenson should give one shit either.
The WBC's official explanation sounded procedural. They stated that fighters cannot hold titles in different weight classes under separate sanctioning bodies at the same time. But Shakur Stevenson rejected that reasoning. He responded by accusing the WBC of retaliation, claiming they stripped him because he refused to pay a $100,000 sanctioning fee for a fight they had no involvement in. His message was direct and unapologetic. Stevenson argued the organization had nothing to do with suggesting this move wasn't about rules, it was about money.
A beautiful performance, a dominating performance. The WBC, in a rush to do nothing. In a rush to do nothing. Can't give this dude a week.
Months earlier, Terence Crawford had been stripped in strikingly similar fashion. To Shakur's team, this didn't look like simple rule enforcement, it felt personal. And that's when the issue grew beyond a single belt. To understand why Stevenson's situation matters, you have to go back to 1998. German boxer Graziano Racchiani shocked the boxing world when he defeated Michael Nunn to win the WBC light heavyweight title after Roy Jones Jr. vacated it. The WBC officially recognized Racchiani as champion, instantly elevating his career with bigger fights, higher paydays, and worldwide recognition. Then everything changed. Roy Jones Jr. decided he wanted the belt back. Instead of mandating a fight or following standard procedures, the WBC made a controversial decision. They reinstated Jones as champion and informed Racchiani that his title reign had been the result of a typographical error, not a judging controversy. Not a rules violation. A typo.
I don't give a care. They bring to you. You are welcome to come get you some. Whoever wants some can come get some. They know what to do. Call HBO, tell HBO what to tell them what you want to do. And y'all know Roy Jones Jr. bars none. Thank you very much.
Racchiani refused to accept the decision. He filed a lawsuit in U.S. federal court arguing that the WBC violated its own rules and severely damaged his earning potential. With the title taken away, major fights disappeared, sponsorships dried up, and his market value plummeted. Against the odds, he won. In July 2004, the WBC quietly settled the case, paying financial compensation. The outcome sent a powerful message sanctioning bodies are not untouchable. The case didn't just embarrass the WBC, it created a legal precedent. Now here's where the issue becomes even more serious. Most fans have never heard of the Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act, but it may be one of the strongest legal protections fighters have. Passed in 1996 and expanded in 2000, the law was designed to shield boxers from exploitative practices by promoters and sanctioning organizations. Congress was clear in its findings, stating that boxing organizations had engaged in anti-competitive conduct and abused their authority over fighters' careers. Under the Act, sanctioning bodies are legally classified as boxing service providers. That designation carries obligations particularly regarding transparency, financial disclosures, and fee structures. Before collecting sanctioning fees or enforcing disciplinary actions, they are required to clearly disclose the basis for those decisions. The law also gives fighters a right to challenge unfair treatment, including questionable title stripping that affects their livelihood. In legal terms, a championship belt is more than a trophy, it represents economic value. It impacts rankings, negotiating power, endorsements, and future purses. If Shakur Stevenson were to argue that the WBC stripped him in retaliation for refusing to pay a fee, or that the organization failed to follow its own procedures, he could potentially seek protection under federal law, not just within boxing politics. That distinction matters. Because if this dispute ever moved from social media to a courtroom, it wouldn't simply be about one fighter and one belt. It would raise a broader question about how much power sanctioning bodies truly have in the modern era. And if it reached that stage, Stevenson's legal team wouldn't be starting from scratch. There are multiple legal avenues they could explore, each one directly challenging how sanctioning organizations operate behind closed doors.
Recently shared that open letter with the boxing community regarding the Muhammad Ali Act. For all the fans watching, why is this issue so important right now?
Well, there's a lot of confusion, very unfortunate concern around the boxing community, unnecessary attacks, unnecessary noise that has been created.
First, there's the issue of breach of contract. If Shakur had an active agreement with the WBC, whether formal in writing or implied through his participation rankings and championship status, the organization could be accused of violating that relationship by stripping him without proper notice or due process. Courts often examine whether an organization followed its own established procedures, timelines, and notification requirements, not just whether it technically had the authority to act. Then there's tortious interference, a legal claim that focuses directly on financial harm. A world title isn't just symbolic. It influences purse negotiations, pay-per-view percentages, sponsorship deals, and global market value. Removing that status could arguably interfere with a fighter's ability to secure the most lucrative opportunities available. Another potential argument involves internal rule violations. As in the Rocket Johnny case, the key question wouldn't simply be whether the WBC has rules, but whether it adhered to them. If its regulations provide for a grace period review process or define criteria before stripping a champion, bypassing those steps could carry legal weight. There's also the matter of inconsistent enforcement. Why are some champions given extended time to unify titles or change divisions, while Stevenson was stripped within days? That disparity could become a central issue.
Boxing is a great sport, and in reality, there is no one that can claim to own the sport. No organization, no league, no boxer, no champion, no one person. Boxing is a great sport. It's a worldwide sport, and it belongs to the boxers and to the
courts. Treat selective enforcement as a serious matter, particularly when it appears retaliatory or targeted. Then there's restraint of trade language that appears directly in federal boxing law. Congress specifically cautioned against sanctioning bodies using anti-competitive practices that limit a fighter's earning potential. When you combine that with measurable financial losses, this shifts from a simple boxing controversy to a business and legal dispute. And legal experts agree on one point: this wouldn't be unprecedented. Fighters have taken sanctioning bodies to court before, and in some cases they prevailed. But the most compelling aspect of Shakur's potential case may be the simplest one. It wouldn't rely on emotion or public opinion. It would come down to numbers, a clear financial calculation of damages.
This dude, Shakur, has told the world, I'm 135 pounds. I plan on competing at 135 unless there's a situation that presents itself.
Boxing fans have seen champions hold on to titles while pursuing bigger opportunities time and time again. Some moved up in weight without being stripped. Others postponed mandatory defenses for years. In many of those cases, the WBC granted exemptions extensions or outright exceptions. So why was Shakur treated differently? That question alone opens a door to a double standard argument. If the WBC applied its rules strictly to some fighters and flexibly to others, a court could view that behavior as arbitrary and capricious decision, making a legal standard judges take very seriously. Shakur didn't shy away from that belief. He accused the WBC of singling him out due to its ongoing issues with Terence Crawford, stating in essence that the organization's dispute with Bud was being taken out on him. If that claim could be backed by timelines, internal communications, or a pattern of selective enforcement, the narrative would shift dramatically. At that point, the title stripping wouldn't appear to be governance or rule enforcement. It would look like retaliation. And courts are far less inclined to shield organizations that punish individuals selectively, especially when those actions directly impact a person's livelihood. Still, even with a strong legal foundation, the path forward wouldn't be simple. For all the leverage Shakur might have, there are significant obstacles that could prevent a lawsuit from ever gaining real momentum.
This reason is that Shakur's always said, I want to go up to fight Teo, but I want to come back down to 135. So basically, he's on the WBC. Let me go up there, I will come back down. And with what the WBC are going through right now, this battle with Zuffa, where, you know, they've got some real big players and power over there, and they're saying F the belts, and WBC are fighting, saying no, the belt.
The WBC's first line of defense would be straightforward. Their own rule book. They could argue that their regulations explicitly forbid holding championships across multiple weight classes and organizations, and that Shakur knowingly breached those rules. More importantly, the WBC's bylaws give them full discretion in enforcing tight LISA clause, specifically included to protect the organization from legal challenges. Then there's the question of jurisdiction. Headquartered in Mexico but operating internationally and sanctioning fights in dozens of countries, it would be extremely complicated to determine where a lawsuit could even be filed. Practical considerations also come into play. Time and money. Federal litigation is costly, with legal fees potentially reaching hundreds of thousands of dollars or more. History shows such cases drag on for years, the Rock Johnny lawsuit being a prime example. Shakur is in his athletic prime, and every year spent in court is a year not spent building his legacy in the ring. On top of that, there's no guarantee that any financial award would even cover the legal expenses.
What I want to do is have a public spat, a public back and forth with one of the biggest names in boxing right now. Shakur Stevenson is one of the biggest names in boxing. And the thing about Shakur as well, you piss him off, this guy will go straight to social media and make it known that he's pissed off. And that's what he's done. He's made it known what the WBC are wanting, or wanted for him, or from him, which was 100,000.
From the WBC's perspective, they would argue that they acted fully within their authority, followed proper internal procedures, and enforced rules that fighters agree to when entering their rankings. But what are legal experts saying? Sports law attorneys familiar with boxing disputes generally agree on one point: very few of these cases ever make it to a jury. Most lawsuits involving sanctioning bodies are quietly resolved, often through settlements behind closed doors. Organizations typically prefer this approach to avoid setting legal precedents that other fighters could exploit. Experts note that the Muhammad Ali Boxing Reform Act gives fighters more leverage than many realize, particularly regarding disclosures, fees, and consistent enforcement of rules. Several law firms now openly advertise experience representing fighters against sanctioning bodies of development that would have been almost unimaginable decades ago. In a notable 2023 federal case, a professional boxer was awarded $1.3 million after expert testimony showed clear economic harm from unfair practice. Even so, consensus among attorneys is cautious. Shakur may have grounds to challenge the WBC's decision, but litigation is costly, time-consuming, and unpredictable. Some suggest alternative approaches, such as filing formal complaints with state athletic commissions or the Association of Boxing Commissions. These routes carry far less financial risk, though they lack the immediate impact of a high-profile lawsuit. The strategic question remains: Would suing truly benefit Shakur, or would it simply mark him as a problem no sanctioning body wants to deal with? His controversies, timing also matters. The boxing landscape is changing. Dana White and Zuffa Boxing are openly challenging the traditional model, while Terence Crawford recently walked away rather than continue paying sanctioning fees. Whether Shakur chooses litigation or another route, this moment highlights how fighters are increasingly testing the boundaries of boxing's old guard.
They ain't gonna tell me. I ain't even tell. Apologize? Like, who the fuck you think I am? Boy, you better slap your fucking self and paying your ass shit. Fuck you talking about pay.
More fighters are openly questioning where their money goes and why. The old system depends on silence and compliance, but that silence is starting to break. If Shakur were to sue and win, it wouldn't just be about reclaiming a belt. It could force sanctioning bodies to enforce rules consistently, disclose fee structures transparently, and reconsider the extent of their power. Of course, there's another possibility: the system could resist, isolate fighters who challenge it, and continue business as usual. Either way, the landscape is